And before we start these proceedings, may I bring your attention to some housekeeping matters? There is no expected fire alarm testing today. Therefore, if the fire alarm sounds, please follow the fire and emergency procedures that are applicable to the Council House. This meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of subsequent repeated viewing. By entering this Warspite room, committee members are consenting to being filmed throughout the meeting and to the use of those recordings for webcasting. Please can I ask that you speak clearly and directly into your microphone when addressing the meeting so that online participants and the public can hear, and that it is switched off when you're not using it. Your mobile devices are turned to silent. Okay, everyone reaches for them. Okay. So I'd like to ask the committee and democratic advisor for any apologies for non-attendance from committee members.
Chair, you've apologies from Councillor Ney. Councillor Lawson is substituting. Councillor Dingle, Councillor Freeman is a substitute. Councillor Darcy, Councillor Holloway, Councillor Murphy, Councillor McNamara is a substitute. But you need to leave a little early, I understand. Is that correct, Councillor? Yeah. And I think that is it, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And having seen the agenda and the reports that have been sent out beforehand, are there any declarations of interest from committee members in relation to items on the agenda? No? Okay. So if we look at, in the pack, pages 5 to 18, to confirm the minutes of the meeting of the 31st of July to start with. And then the 28th of August. Is everyone happy, those of you who are here, that the accuracy of the minutes? Thank you. And can I just bring the attention to the recommendations? When we discussed the DELT contract, the extension of the DELT contract, we agreed some recommendations to Cabinet from that. And there is a rewording, having taken it to Cabinet, a rewording of one of the recommendations, and that was word number 2. Where it was originally stated, recommend to Cabinet further reviews of the DELT contract. Well, we can't review the DELT contract in that 10 years because it was agreed that it would be 10 years. But the rewording is now to further to review the performance of the service being delivered in advance of the break clause that the Council could exercise in 3, 5, 7 and 9, which would provide greater oversight. So I think the intention of us was that we will look at the performance of the DELT rather than are we going to cease DELT during those at those stages, and that was proposed and by the Cabinet, and I welcome the wording of that, which conveyed the message that we wish to convey. And point 3, I think our monitoring officer has responded to that. Do you want me to read the point? Yes, ahead of you before we find it. Okay, it was recommended that the monitoring officer that a mechanism which allows the scrutiny function to scrutinise the companies owned by the council should be included as part of the development of a governance framework pertaining to the family of companies. And since then,
that's exactly what the monitoring officer has done. So put together a framework. I'm not sure it's been to Cabinet yet, whether it needs to go. But certainly there's a framework being built around the family of companies, in particular reference to its governance. We've got a discussion later on risk, but the Q1, but it'll be the Q1 risk, and just to advise councillors that we expect that the family of companies to be entered as a risk in the Q2 risk register. But that's just to maintain focus on improving those governance arrangements. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Thank you.
Chair,
sorry, Councillor
Ricketts. Have we got all this? Sorry if I've missed something. Have we got all this written down about the
wording, the rewording,
the Cabinet coming back to us on our? Is this here in these papers?
No.
It's not in those papers. It's part of the Cabinet minutes. More than happy to circulate though, Chair.
If you can, if you could just have it in writing, in an email. Do you know what I mean? Thank you.
Fair point. Thank you. as you know, the warm-up act for this meeting today was the budget in the House of Commons, and I dare say there may be, as we've got our finance guru here, that may enter our conversation today in our discussion. And can I just ask that even those, many of you who are on this panel, you're new to this process, and those substitute and used to some of this process, feel free to ask questions about the paper that's been presented to you, particularly if there are any acronyms or if you want clarity about the content.
Through you, Chair. Obviously, the Chancellor's only sat down in the last 20 minutes. So whilst we might be able to answer some high-level questions about the impact of some of the decisions that are likely to be made, we'll have further information, certainly when we come to budget scrutiny in December. Thanks.
I don't have any urgent business to share, and so we can go on to item 5 on the agenda, the financial monitoring report up to the end of August. And I'll hand over now to David Northey, our financial monitoring officer, to go through that.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, committee. So, timings being what they are, this is the first monitoring report, I think, for 24-25 that I've actually brought and put in front of you. But so this was the position as at month 5, the end of August. Just to remind everybody, this is a forecast right the way through to the 31st of March 2025. So it's not where are we at this point in time, it's a forecast to take us to the end of the year. And as everybody will be aware, it falls on me with a statutory duty to make sure that we balance the books by the time we get there. So that's why it's very important that we keep these monitoring reports in front of you. You've had a chance, hopefully, to have a look, and I'm sure you've got some questions. I would just point out that this is a slightly revised view of the world. So you might ask me questions about why are you showing pressures and then mitigations, and it's all coming back to zero if it's all coming back to zero. The point of this was we trying to respond to some of the recommendations that have come from you and your peers at the budget scrutiny meetings, but also our external auditors, which is to be a bit more transparent about our numbers. So by showing that we've got a bit of a risk and then how we're mitigating it is to hopefully give you some clarity. I am quite happy to take any comments on whether that is helpful or not, but the position as at the end of this month, month 5, is a break even. But as you can see, there are risks that are associated with that. So I'll just take any questions if that's all right, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, just one on the strategic risk register. Has the capitalisation directive been granted? Because it's stating the capitalisation.
Through you, Chair, we've got an item on risk. I don't know whether you wanted to save that till then, Councillor, or because we're not.
Yeah, whatever's easier.
Right, we'll come back to that then if that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions at this stage on this document?
Chair, can we?
Councillor Ricketts.
Where's the cabinet member today? We are here to scrutinise the cabinet. He wasn't here for the last meeting either.
Through you, Chair, I did speak to the portfolio holder this morning, and for different reasons he said, is it okay if I just try and cover this off? But he's more than willing to come in if there are some specific questions. But as we can see today, what would you be talking to him about? Because you've not asked me a question, but I'm not here to speak for him. That's something I'll take back, Councillor Ricketts.
Chair, I think it's an important principle that the cabinet member appears. It's otherwise, you know, it's the whole thing is it's a democratic process. I think just if you can let him know, I think I'd be surprised if people didn't share that. It's a bit bizarre, especially 2 meetings on the bounce. I understand illness and circumstance. I don't want this to become it's not normal for the cabinet member not to be here at the board meeting.
So through you, Chair, certainly I think the last meeting was just about doubt, actually, which is the most likely reason Councillor Lowry wasn't in attendance.
But Councillor Dan was.
Councillor Dan was, yes, absolutely. Obviously, David's given the reasons why Councillor Lowry is not with us today, and certainly what we'll do in the future is ensure attendance when we're talking about financial matters.
Chair, if David could just go through the risks, that would be great, because that's what we're here for.
Well, Chair, I'll happily go through the risks when we come to the risk item on the agenda.
Yeah, it kind of mirrors the, it's the same thing, basically, isn't it?
Well, if there are no questions for 5, shall we move on to item 6?
There's a natural synergy,
Which
yeah.
is the strategic risks.
Yeah.
Up to the end of Q1, bear in mind that's up until the end of June. But there will be a chance to have some update on key matters that might be arisen. Councillor Finn?
Yeah, Chair, just with regard to some of the documents, even with glasses, I can't read that.
That was one of the reasons
so
I said it as well.
That is a good question and a statement.
I'll happily cover it, Chair.
Okay.
Through you, Chair. Thank you.
Can I just say with the presentation bit, though, obviously on your laptops you have the facility to enlarge it with your fingers and so on, or if you wish to go old school with a magnifying glass. But also there's, if we have paper copies, is that possible to blow up to A3? Will it actually make a difference if it went up to A3? Okay, that's a point.
Yeah, it just helps people with dyslexia, Chair.
Okay.
Obviously, trying to find your way through the laptop if there's a lot of papers can be quite.
Thank you. So we'll go on to item 6 now, the strategic risks, the end of Q1, and I'll hand back to David.
And with the greatest, I'm going to slope my shoulder slightly and say I'll join in with the questions and answers, but if I move it back to Ross, it'll give you a better explanation.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, as I mentioned, this reflects strategic risks as per Q1. We're just in the process right this second of updating risks for Q2, which finished at the end of September. So expect those to be published for Cabinet in the next week. So what we've tried to do is set our risks against our risk appetite as they exist in the risk and opportunity management strategy. So that provides you with the main body of your report, so you can see how each of our risks sits within our risk appetite. There's 20 risks on the risk register for Q1, but as I said, there will be changes into Q2, and what I'll do is just give a brief update on some of those. So in terms of the risk concerning sufficient senior leadership, that's currently on our risk register, and I expect that one to come off for Q2, given our recent recruitment activity to the senior management team. So that's risk, the top risk on the table, which is currently marked red. So we'd expect that one to come off. Council's expenditure exceeds the resources available to meet that expenditure is a risk which is an ongoing risk and obviously relates to the previous item in terms of the MTFP. That risk will remain in Q2, and we'll have some updated mitigation which you'll be able to consider at the budget scrutiny meeting in December. I don't expect increased sustained pressure in adult social care to come off our risk registers, nor do I expect the health inequalities to come off our risk registers. Both show a risk score of 16 at the moment. Chair, those are the high scoring risks at the moment, and what I would say is the risk is something we provide each panel. And the purpose of having risk with you today is to judge whether or not you consider panels should look any further into an individual risk as a piece of work. But happy to take any questions, and of course an updated risk report will be available for the December budget scrutiny sessions. And actually what we'll do, Chair, if members would wish it, we'll circulate the Q2 report as soon as it's published for Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Finn?
Yeah, just a couple of points. A clarification on the capitalisation directive, has it been granted? Second thing is obviously the sale of property that's come up. One of them's been a contentious issue out there in the media at the moment. What's the risk of actually being able to meet the financial obligations of, so we know 8.6 million, for example, had to be derived from property sales to complete Armada Way. What's the risk of that on the register? And thirdly, is the civic centre really a risk on the register going forward because with regard to financing?
Well, through you, Chair, we've not identified any asset risk that needs to be entered onto the register at the moment. If you've got specifics that you'd like us to look into, happy to do so. In terms of financial sustainability going forward, I'm sure David will have a few remarks, but I think it's clear that the risk of our ongoing financial sustainability has been well communicated to staff over the course of the last few weeks. Staff have taken every measure to make sure that we fall within our budgets going forward, and indeed under them if at all possible, to manage the current demand that the authority is facing. I don't know if David, if you wanted to add anything to that.
Not too much to add, Chair, but just trying to pick those off as they came, Councillor. The risk as it stands on here is an all-embracing. Will we work within the financial envelope that we've got? So there's lots of risk contained within that, and you will know from previous experience, and you will see it when I publish the budget papers for the scrutiny in December, that I then do a separate risk register which then breaks down into some of the detail. So in terms of specifically the capitalisation direction, I'll be updating Audit and Governance Committee in a couple of weeks on where we are on that one. So as we stand at the moment, we are in the same position as we have been for a while, which is we're still minded to, still working, so that's fine. So it's not a specific risk because that is covered in the overall risk. In terms of capital receipts as a general principle, if a project requires capital receipts or any funding, that's included on that particular project's risk, so covered off on that one. In terms of, I think you mentioned the civic centre as a specific possible risk. Again, I would say there is a standalone business case that details all the risks, etc. on that one. So I'm very comfortable that what we're putting in front of you today covers the risks that we're aware of, if that answers the question, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you for that, David. Just one further point is obviously the amount of people we got in emergency accommodation at the moment. We know there's a risk from an outside housing provider, which could put, again, risk onto the council of having to accommodate these individuals. We've agreed this morning through a meeting with Tess and myself that I think it'll be January or February, we're going to call the housing associations in to ask them what accommodation provided, but we're acutely aware there's going to be a huge shortfall to what we're going to be able to provide against need. Is that being classed as a risk? And if so, how?
Through you, Chair. Absolutely, homelessness is on the risk register. It's a key worry. Yeah. That's fine, Councillor. Thank you. So yes, absolutely, homelessness is on the risk register. Mitigation really is reflective of the investment that Cabinet agreed earlier in the year to support temporary accommodation, with a number of other work streams ongoing in respect of that, including elements of Plan for Homes, Plan for Homes 4. So it is on the risk register. There is a mitigation attached to it. Absolutely, it's the right thing for your scrutiny panel to be considering that further down the line.
Thank you, Chair.
I'm sorry, and so I was just going to say, and when we get on later in this agenda to talk about the budget scrutiny, that will be a feature that absolutely we want input and your thoughts on that. So.
All right, thank you, Chair, thank you, officers.
Councillor Ricketts?
Thank you, Chair. On the Customer and Corporate Services Directorate, Windsor and Midland to be a corporate pressure. That's quite significant. What's the story on that? It's highlighted as a rag rating of red.
I'm sorry, Chair, are we back onto the month 5 report now?
Yes.
Is that the finance report?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the situation is, we've obviously got the risk register, but the detail is in the finance page. So it's appropriate to refer back to the evidence or the flagging up.
So through you, Chair, if it's the case that if you'd like to discuss both the finance and the strategic risk as a single item, that's fine if that's what the committee agrees to, and we will cover the recommendations for both at the end of this discussion. Is that okay? All right. Thank you.
Where are we on that issue?
So
Continue with your line of
Yeah.
inquiry.
Well, just the backstory.
So, sorry, through you, Chair.
Yeah, it's the mitigation of Windsor and Midland to be a corporate pressure. It's showing that there's a red ragging for that with a variance of 0.350 million.
So it's rated red for the current year, 24-25. So that's because we have moved out of Midland, for instance, but timings mean that we don't put it onto the open market auction. Next one available, I think, is February. So at that stage, that will take it off our books and save the cost. But so there's some holding costs between us vacating and being able to release the sales proceeds. So that's not an ongoing issue, but you're right to raise it in year. In terms of Windsor House, as you will be aware, we vacated that one a little while ago, and we've tried to market it and do different things to come up with a solution to that one. So again, those costs will only be a problem to us for the current year, because we've now found an anchor tenant to move in January, I believe. So that will not be a pressure going forward either. But there are some short-term pain there as we work our way through the market process.
Okay. Have we sold Windsor House? Have we?
No, we're retaining Windsor House, but we have found an anchor. I think that's the correct expression, isn't it? Anchor tenant to move in to, which will alleviate the costs for us.
I thought that we were going to market it, or we'd been trying to market it. I didn't realise this had happened.
So we've got to respond to what the market gives us. So for several months, if not a year or so, we've been trying to put it on the market to see if we could find a viable buyer, etc. The market has not helped us with that, so we've gone for another plan, which is to find someone who will rent it from us on a long-term basis. So that's where we are at the moment.
Have we found someone there?
Yes, and I'm being a little bit circumspect, because until you know, in football parlance, until there's a signature on the piece of paper, there isn't a signature, is there? So I wouldn't want to put any unnecessary strains on the negotiations. But yes, we have found someone, and the plan would be for them to take tenancy in January 25.
I am happy about that. I don't know until I hear the further details, maybe not, but I am happy because I was concerned that we would be selling off an important asset. But I think if we've got a tenant and they're the right tenant, then this is good news. Hopefully there'll be some sort of, how will that information be released to councillors when the deal's done as such?
So my understanding would be there would be some kind of paper coming through cabinet to seal what we've done, but certainly when we get to the December budget scrutiny, I'm hanging a lot on that, aren't I? But when we get to that point, absolutely have that discussion. But I think it's good news, and I'm very pleased with the position we find ourselves in.
I've said before, Jet, it's important that we hear about it first rather than reading about it in the newspaper, a bit like the parliamentary situation. As long as we hear about it in the proper processes, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, and the critical thing is there's income planned to come in. What you're suggesting, David, is that because of that, it wouldn't be a red rating then in Q3, probably, is it?
We'll try and do as we're doing, which is mitigate it in year, but it will not then be an ongoing pressure. So it's a resolution to that issue.
Okay, thank you. Then I'll call in Councillor Finn.
Just while we're on the month 5 report bit, can somebody, again, Customer and Corporate Services Director, can someone just explain to me a bit more about reduction of the housing benefits overpayment BDP, please? Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, I will answer the question when I find the correct page. Is it right? Okay. We're first on this. Sorry, Councillor.
Oh, that's okay. It's on page 6.
Oh, there we go. I'm there. There we are. Right. So, sorry, I'm on the page. Sorry, it's not the excuse. I'm suffering a little bit, but I can't shake off this code. And right, too much. So housing benefit, yeah. So in the good years, we managed to put away some money into a reserve just to see us through some of the bad years. And I think what we're seeing in this particular year is we are able to release some of that money to help offset the pressures. So a little bit technical, but sometimes we can, good days, sometimes, so we're sort of moving it around. But I can say that there is a working party that's been put together just to look at not just Plymouth housing benefit as a pressure, but I'm also working nationally to try and raise the profile a little bit, because I think it's one of those that goes under the radar. So having negotiations about that, but that's what's happening on that one.
Yes.
So, sorry, thank you, David. So, just to clarify for me, being a sub here today, so the reduction of the housing benefits overpayment BDP, basically, I presume this is where we've been receiving repayments from individual people of their overpayments, and what you're saying is that goes into a separate account, and so some of that has then been used to offset, yeah?
Yeah, what I ought to explain, and I'd apologise, is BDP doesn't mean very much to anybody, does it, but bad debt provision. So that might help clarify where, yes, we've been, as people have been paying, we've been able to reduce the bad debt provision because we're collecting. That probably helps clarify, doesn't it, Councillor?
Councillor Finn.
Yeah, it's just to follow on reference to Windsor House. I remember our chief executive saying to us some 12 months ago that £4.5 million was set aside for the demolition of Windsor House. Where's that being reallocated to? Because obviously one was aware that buildings standing up, you have to pay business rates and associated costs with, and it was cheaper, I believe, at the time. It was £4.5 million set aside to demolish the building. That came about when we were discussing the budget 12 months ago. The second point is what Councillor Rickett said, is with regard to obviously openness and transparency with regard to asset disposals, that we're finding out a lot from the media about disposals and councillors aren't. Is there a mechanism can be put in place, i.e. a register of asset value, whether it's been sold in the open market, freehold, leasehold or whatever, that can be given to at least the scrutiny chairs. So if anybody asks us questions, we've got members of the public asking us questions, for example, about the registry office, can't answer them because we don't know. We've only got 7 days under the current constitution to call anything in, and we can't find out where that decision was made and by whom. I was making investigations this morning, we still can't find that out. So it's just basically looking ahead that, say, a monthly register is put together of all asset disposals, how it's being disposed of, and the person responsible. So if any councillors have any questions with regard to it, we as scrutiny chairs in housing, for example, can alight to it, or to keep the grade, so that all councillors are aware, should there be a public interest in.
So, Chair, just to come in on some of the process issues. So in terms of where decisions are made, we make decisions through both delegated decision processes and through the cabinet process. Both are published online. All members should receive an email notification. I've advising them of when decisions have been taken. It will include both the decision cover sheet and all of the background papers that support that decision making. And as you've correctly stated, it's at that point in which you're able to call in those decisions. So the decision points are published, and certainly the rules concerning land and property transactions and disposals are detailed within the Constitution. The process is clear within that. So happy to take any questions on that now, but probably better for outside the room. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Sorry, through you, Chair, just in terms of that first point that you made, Councillor Finn, I have to confess that as a Finance Director, I'm not aware of a 4.5 million set aside to demolish Windsor House, but I do know as
Well, through you, Chair, we can't comment on any discussion that the Chief Executive might have had with a Conservative group in a private political meeting. That's not something we would be able to comment on today.
sorry, thank you, just to finish my comment, which was just picking up on what Councillor Ricketts said, I think, which is we have to be fleet of foot with the market, don't we? And sometimes it's unfortunate that we have to kind of make a decision. And my colleague here, Helen, will know as well as anybody that quite often we get an email that says, can we get this to auction today? You know, because someone's really interested, and if we have to go through a whole process, then that will just slow us down. That's not saying that we're not doing the correct governance, but just so that sometimes that's the way it happens. But I can't comment further on that because I wasn't part into that conversation. So
Yeah, Chair, just to come back on what Ross said, with all due respect, it would be easier if there was, say, a portal or a page given to councillors, so councillors are aware, rather than having to constantly try and search for this information and spend a lot of time doing so. But if there's a central paper that actually says this is what we're getting rid of this month, just promoted to all councillors are aware, I don't think that's too much of an ask really in the process.
As far as I'm aware, throughout the week, because I read them, I'm sure everyone else gets them, but the delegated decisions that members of the cabinet have taken for certain issues, and I think I saw for myself there's something about Windsor House, Midland, registry office before it was in the press. Am I correct? Does anybody else receive the email about delegated decisions?
Yeah, just on clarity there, Chair. When this happens, it will be a delegated decision, won't it? The Windsor House agreement.
It will be a decision. It depends what process is used to make that decision. Both the delegated decision process and the cabinet decision process are more or less one and the same. They're both executive functions. But certainly, yeah, it would be a decision that would be published.
It hasn't been published yet, though, because it hasn't happened.
Well, that's correct, yeah.
I was just responding to Councillor Finn when he was saying about some decisions have been made without any councillors being aware of it. But they are, check your email box, they are sent out as delegated responsibilities. Usually if they take place outside a cabinet meeting as well, or else they'll be considered as cabinet decisions.
Just on that, just while we're on this, when is the delegated decision being made?
Through you, Chair, the DELT decision wasn't made through a delegated process. It was made at cabinet. It was made at the cabinet meeting in September.
Yeah.
The one that Councillor Stevens just referred to.
Because we noted the recommendation and tweaked some of the things which were referred earlier on and that are in your minutes to the Cabinet to make that decision based, having gone through it to us. We noted it rather than amended the proposal. Shall we move on then? But first, there are any other questions regarding the two items there, the Finance Monitor Report and the strategic risks?
Sorry, me again. Sorry. Can I just ask, so going on to the Growth Directorate, okay, so that's page 18 of the month 5 report for you, David. I empathise with the lurgy. Can, again, just put for my benefit, maybe some others as well, under the position of growth, it says about the pressures on budget for the legacy delivery plans in the BAU pressures, but then it says about the mitigations with the income maximisation, including commercial contracts and leases. So is that because lease costs have been increased? What really does the income maximisation come from? Where does it come from? But besides that.
No, that's a fair question. So, sorry, I must be careful with these acronyms. But BAU, business as usual. So, yeah. No, you're right to call it out. It shouldn't come through on the report. So we'll take that on board and make sure we give a bit more clarity. In terms of where is the income maximisation coming from? Well, again, slightly sensitive for me to talk about, but I think, I'm sorry, I'm sounding like a broken record. When you get to your December budget scrutiny, there will be a session on growth and what we're doing, and I think that would be a really good opportunity because you'll have the correct directors in front of you to give you the detail. So rather than me second guessing and giving you a false story, if I leave it like that, is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, I'm only subbing today for Councillor Dingo, but I can ask him to follow through on that one.
Thank
I
you.
suppose that the wider issue would be, what I'm taking from that is my opening question of, does this kind of format help us or hinder us? I'll take that as that needs a bit of clarity, because that's obviously not answering the question, is it, if you're needing to come back? So that's a good point. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Allison?
It's not clear from the paperwork whether or not the committee is this committee or another one that's being made. Can you clarify? Is it this committee that's
Or
having
budget
the
monitoring?
meeting? Yeah,
It'll be this committee.
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
It says in the report that it
Yeah.
will be chosen. So I was just
And
making
we'll come
sure.
on to that in an item or two. Happy to move on? Okay, we do need to note that in terms of the financial monitoring report in August, that are you happy to agree that the board notes the forecast revenue monitoring position at period 5 as set out in this report is nil variance, and 2, they included in that report the capital budget 24-29 is revised to the sum of 366.285 million as shown in table 1. And also that the Scrutiny Management Board notes the strategic risk quarter 1 24-25 report. All happy with that? Okay. Thank you. Okay, item 7 rather, which will feed into item 8 and all our work in scrutiny for those who scrutinise in this board and other panels, to discuss training development opportunities for councillors sitting on scrutiny committees. This came up last time. That there is training provided by the local authority when you become a councillor, and it's very much an overview about the purpose of scrutiny. But it's felt that we need to actually equip ourselves with the skills and the know-how and the purpose of good scrutiny. So I'll hand over now to Ross, who has presented a proposal.
Thank you, Chair. I won't go through it because I think it's fairly self-explanatory in terms of the paperwork in front of you. As Chair's reflected upon, of course, we do provide some scrutiny training, but that is quite high level and introduces the overall concept rather than the detail. Over the years, we've engaged several different organisations to come and provide scrutiny training. We've delivered it ourselves, and there's been some benefits and some disbenefits to that approach. But what we've done this time is reached out to someone that we know has worked in a very similar authority to ours. So Dr. McKenna cut his teeth as a scrutiny officer in Swansea. They did quite a lot of work there with the Welsh Government around focusing on scrutiny in Wales. We feel that his background in scrutiny in an urban environment is quite useful to us, particularly Swansea's similar in placement to us with a large rural hinterland. So we think that would bring some useful context to the discussions that we have. Essentially, though, Chair, it's just for councillors to review the proposal, suggest any amendments or anything that they would like to see included, and we'll go away and arrange for that training to take place. Just a reminder that there is a councillor development page on the councillor hub. And there is training listed on there. So we will be undertaking some training for new and aspiring chairs of committees in November. And we've also invited the LGA down to undertake some finance training at the end of November. So you're able to undertake some finance training in advance of the budget scrutiny process in December. Thanks, Chair. Happy to take any comments.
Councillor Ricketts.
Thanks for that, Chair Rod. I think it's welcome. It's welcome that we have extra training on scrutiny. It's very important. I'm hoping this will be in person, this training. I don't want to be sat speaking to them in Wales.
So through you, Chair, absolutely it will be in person. That's the approach they would like to take. It's going to be open to all members involved with scrutiny, so not just the members in this room. So likely to be a big session to kick off with. But I think from there, what we'll be able to do is develop a programme going forward to support scrutiny. So this would be probably the kick-off of a wider programme of training around scrutiny in particular.
And not only in person, but in English as well, Councillor Ricketts, as well, which is a bonus for most of you.
I think you just worked in Wales, Chair. I'm not sure as well.
Can I ask?
Sorry, Chair, I don't want to prolong, but just state the obvious, I suppose. SIPFA Guide to Good Governance includes that we should keep everybody, including officers as well as members, trained when we're asking them to do a job. So if you can take that on board, and this is an opportunity for you as members to gain more knowledge, but it helps us to be held to account, and it also helps me to tick a SIPFA box that says we are doing this development. And the second thing I would say is obviously nothing comes without a cost, so please make every effort to prioritise this and get your colleagues to come along because it will be useful. Thank you.
Can I ask, is it scheduled to be during the daytime or end of the day? Because that will dictate for some people their ability to attend in person.
It will be a daytime session, Chair, yes. My expectation would be probably late afternoon, but I mean, I'm happy to take guidance from the committee in that respect. I think the difficulty is if we are looking to have external suppliers, essentially, or vendors come in, the expectation is that you operate during business hours. But I'm, happy to take away if members are looking to have an evening session. I'll take that away.
Councillor Freeman?
I'd actually like to make a suggestion that perhaps 2 sessions are provided, an afternoon one and an evening one, because we're talking about couple of hours, and I think any provider of training will work with the organisation who's fitting the bill to give them the times that they need as opposed to the times that the trainer needs, if that makes sense.
Is that a possibility? If there would be a cost issue there?
Yes, it would be double the cost.
Yeah, but actually, is there more cost? Is it more costly not being able to attend the training than being able to attend one or either?
if the committee's comfortable with the content of what has been suggested, we'll look to get those extra sessions, but it will be a matter of balancing cost against those people that are able to attend. We have experienced, we've spent quite large amounts of money on training, and we just want to make sure that we're getting the best value out of it.
So I just follow on, Chair. Yeah, it's just about for those that are working and not able to get the time off or have school runs and stuff. It just gives them the opportunity to come along in the evening, and it just tries to make us be as inclusive as possible.
Councillor Riley.
Yeah, is it possible to keep costs down, just do one, have a Teams potentially, maybe send out some sort of ask about times that works for everybody? It might be save some money.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Absolutely do that. Yeah.
Councillor Rickett.
So we're saying we're going to do it physically, but people can beam in if they want to. Yeah. I don't.
Are you looking for someone to beam in?
No. Our approach for this initial session would be an in-person session without any virtual attendance. It would be a much more of a workshop type approach, which doesn't fit well really in that virtual space.
I think we just got to be pragmatic about it. We've got 57 counties, like trying to organise a Christmas party. Like everyone's not going to make it. Okay, we accept that. We just got to give people plenty of time. I mean, and then if you can make it, you can make it. Do you know what I mean? Scrutiny isn't always exciting, and the thought of having to wait till the evening to do it, for me personally, I would get out of the way in a daytime environment and move on.
But it's going to be really exciting after this
Not
training.
something I'd look forward to in the evening.
Okay, and Councillor McNamara before bringing in Councillor Freeman.
Thanks, Chair. I don't mind what time of day or night it is, but could we have at least 2 weeks' notice, so then you've got an opportunity to plan, ask for time off, sort yourself out. That's the main issue for me. Thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't resist this. Through you, Chair. I have to say, Councillor Rickett, scrutiny is very exciting.
So the general feeling is, if just working throughout the plan proposal is good. We sort out when it is, give good notice, and aim to get as many people in the room as possible, because then it's not just what interaction you have with the trainer, it's the interaction between trainees is critical as well. Okay, thank you for the proposal. Happy to accept this. Thank you very much. Okay, on to item plan for budget scrutiny, which I think this time last year, when those of us who were involved were approached, we said, okay, what you do. So you'll all have the same feeling now if you haven't been involved in this before. But there are 2 busy days of the year, but they're critical days because, as has been alluded, we come face to face with the cabinet members and officers for various aspects of the council's work, and just to hold to account about how things are going. Why is this happening? Why is not happening? And actually an opportunity to make recommendations for in-year and future years financial planning and provision for the residents of the city as well. So you have a paper in front of you, and is this for you, Ross? Or
yeah, happy to cover it, Chair. I think you've covered all of the main points. Scrutiny, budget scrutiny to take place this year on the 16th and 17th of December. I think we agreed that timing, not the last session, the session before. What we've done is provide you with an outline approach to that session, broadly similar to last year's. You'll note that the main risks that we face have not changed substantially. So we continue with a focus on our big spending departments, essentially, so children's social care, adult social care. We also want to spend some time, or we're suggesting that we spend some time on homelessness, and follow that with a review of those more universal services delivered by our colleagues in place, etc. So happy to take any amendments, comments, or changes, Chair, and we'll go away and make the changes where required. Thanks.
That there is a weighting on different aspects so that we do get under the skin of the areas that are causing greatest pressure, if you like, for the budget or for those able to deliver the service as we hope. Happy with the format? It will be important if you are taking part in scrutiny of these days that you are there for the 2 days. If somebody can make one day but not the other, they would have to find a substitute, because we discuss, there's sometimes a thread running through the 2 days, but essentially at the end of day 2, we gather the recommendations that have been formed over the 2 days. And the paperwork will come out in good time, and as you say, there will be Q2 financial reporting as well available at the time. It does mean, because of the commitment of people having to give time on that Monday and the Tuesday, just to remind you, the email came out that the Wednesday but Scrutiny Management Board is postponed or cancelled. Yeah, so that would have been in your diary as one of these meetings for December, but because of the time given to those 2 days, actually that's quite a substantial part of this group's work. All okay? Okay, so the recommendation is then that the Scrutiny Management Board considers and approves and suggests amendments to the initial plan. Seems that we all approve. Okay,
Wonderful.
thank you. Okay, and then item 11, an update from committee chairs and work programmes. They've been included or sent out since in your report. Is there any feedback from any committee chairs? Councillor Finn?
Yes, just to note that the December 4th meeting for Housing and Community Services Scrutiny Panel has been filled this morning by a discussion. We'll be looking firstly just at, due to Chris being away, the Cabinet member, just an update, reported update. Further, we'll be looking at bringing forward household waste and recycling into December the 4th. And we'll also be bringing forward city centre parking to complete the vacant slot as of the 4th of December. We're also looking at scheduling another meeting in between the 5th of February and I believe, was it April, Tess?
Yeah.
Yeah, and April, so we can sort of clear some of the backlog that's been accruing of items that need to be scrutinised, yeah.
Thank you. Natural Infrastructure and Growth Scrutiny Panel. Is that you, Lewis? Councillor Elson? No? Okay.
Oh, Councillor
Darcy.
Darcy.
He sent a message, as well as the 4 areas there set for the 29th of October, which was yesterday, discussed. They've also agreed that they'd like to invite South West Water in for a session next year on their plans for infrastructure development and improvements to ensure they complement the Council's ambitious plans in terms of housing development and the wider city economic growth plans. So that'll be an additional meeting that scrutiny panel will schedule. Councillor Riley, do you want to comment on the Children, Young People and Families panel, please?
If you would like me to, Chair.
I would.
So we had teachers in the last scrutiny, which was really interesting, and we are asking them to come back to join us with some members of the Youth Parliament, which will be really interesting. Our work programme actually for the next, it's quite heavy each time, but we've tried to streamline and get less into each scrutiny so we can have a better conversation, but also perhaps looking at a select committee for future conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. And it was a powerful meeting, and there's a commitment to get children and young people at each scrutiny meeting of that panel as well, which is what we're there to discuss.
Sorry, Chair, we also have an all members briefing for child exploitation coming up in December.
Anything to comment other than what's been reported in the Health and Adult Social Care panel?
Well, Chair, you've no Councillor Murphy at the moment. I think their meeting went without hitch on the 22nd. Likely to see further information around fair funding in the future, I would expect. And of course, any impact on the NHS as a result of some of the announcements made just earlier today.
Thank you. Have I included all the panels? I think so.
Yes, you
Yeah.
Do we have a customer service one, do we?
Councillor Finn is already given us, a view
Yeah.
of what the panel's
Housing
up
and
to.
Community Services. Item 12 on the agenda, the work programme for the committee to discuss. There's, you have items listed there. Procurement of domiciliary care, local government and social care ombudsman recommendations, and the update on the Derriford Hospital's new hospitals programme. So we'll see what's happening.
Well, through you, Chair, it sounds there might have been a bit of a mix-up
All
there
right.
as elements of the health and social care
Yeah.
has been drawn over. So well, that looks like an error, so we'll have to make that change.
When was that discussed? But well, hopefully it won't have to come to this panel, that the relevant panel will be able to conduct that business without a hitch. The next panel for us then is obviously the budget.
Chair, sorry, on the agenda item 10, work programme.
Yes.
I've just got a suggestion, okay, and it's sort of triggered from the Windsor House sort of office space situation. I just wanted to put on at some point somewhere discuss staff working from home strategy. I'd like it to be at this board. I think it's quite a high level subject. It affects all of us and how we operate as a council.
Through you, Chair, it's absolutely within the terms of reference for this board as a HR issue.
Okay.
So it seems reasonable that we can request an item of that nature to come along. Absolutely not a problem at all.
Thank you. Anything else from anybody else that they would like to bring to this board that might not be covered by another panel as yet? Okay. Hoping after the scrutiny training we'll be chomping at the bit to bring things to this board, and then you'll regret having the training. No, but it would be good because it's a new revised version of the board, so it's important that we feel equipped to get the most to this for the council and the city's people.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Chair. I think it's an important item.
Thank you. I don't have any exempt business. Thank you.